see the light.
Fandom sucks. More than normal, I mean. While fandom has always been a little bit crazy, it's hard to deny that it has gotten exponentially worse in the past few years. From the simple toxicity in fandom discourse increasing, to death threats made towards creators if they don't toe the line the fandom wants, to groups of fans creating little brigades to protect their fandom, harassing anyone they don't like under the guise of morality. It's gotten pretty bad. The question is, why? Well, if you read the headline up there, you'll know I'm about to tell you why. The answer is religion, or specifically, the lack of religion in the lives of millennials and the new generation. Now, before you close this tab, let me clarify, this isn't about how the downswing of religion has corroded the moral fiber, or anything. It's more interesting than that. And complex. Religion has a function in society. It serves a purpose. This is true regardless of one's own beliefs. Unlike the existence or non-existence of any sort of supreme deity, the functions of religion have been thoroughly documented and studied. If you want a more thorough breakdown beyond the summary I'm about to give, go read Emile Durkheim's The Elementary Forms of the Religious Life. Religion acts as a support system and a shared moral system. As a result, religion is something of a cultural shorthand. Finding out someone's religion quickly tells you a great many things about them. This is useful in social interactions, as it quickly tells you who you're more likely to get along with. To put it in a bit of a primitive way, it makes it easy to find one's allies. If one is Catholic, and meets another Catholic, they instantly know they share a great many beliefs about life, justice, morality and the like. If one is in an entirely new place, finding the local congregation of their own religion is a fast way to build a support network from zero. These are important functions. And with religion out of vogue, especially among the youth, something had to fulfill that function. It's important and necessary. One of the things that has usurped this function is incredibly specific political labels. While highly specific terms for one's political beliefs have always existed, they broke into the mainstream far more than they ever had before in the recent decade. They usurped that function of cultural shorthand. One's own specific political identifier essentially became a flag one waved while attempting to find like-minded people. That's fine. What isn't fine is that fandom has also usurped the function of religion for a large amount of people. Fandom is, frankly, not capable of acting in this manner, and the result is the explosion of atrocious fandoms full of toxicity and at times outright criminality and violence. Most works of fiction have something to say, but few if any present an entire system of morality. Yet despite this, many treat it as such. Therein lies the problem. Religion inherently has a barrier to entry. It's, often, not always, it varies by religion, a simple barrier, but a barrier nonetheless. You have to live by the religion's rules and moral system. In a way, this can be considered payment for the support system the religion offers. If you're not a believer, you don't get in. Pretty simple. That's how it retains its usefulness as an identifier. Knowing someone was a Catholic wouldn't matter if they didn't have to follow the rules. And yes, many religions do charitable work even for those outside their faith. I'm well aware, this is all in the abstract. Fandom doesn't have any such barrier. You like the thing, you're in. It ultimately has no use whatsoever as a cultural, societal identifier. If you like the same TV show, or anime, or video game as someone else, it means well, basically nothing. There's no guarantee you share anything else with them at all. As a result, people who attempt to use fandom in this way ultimately get a rude awakening, and end up encountering someone they dislike, or hate, even. And that's where the problem starts. The revelation that their fandom do not uniformly believe the same things is not often taken well. Rather than realizing that one's choice in media is no guarantee of anything else about them, they develop the belief that this person they dislike is not a real fan. They're fake. They're seeking to harm the fandom. They're the enemy. And if it's the creator? Oh boy, does shit go off then. Ultimately, these people project their own personal beliefs and morality onto a work of fiction that doesn't, and never did, support them. They adopt the completely ludicrous expectation that any other fan they meet must be just like them, and believe all the same things as them. Anyone who doesn't is a real fan, and has to be destroyed. And that person is now a toxic fan, the kind that'll harass, send death threats, and blackmail or threaten the creators. And the problem is only going to get worse. Online communication and support is only going to become a bigger and bigger part of people's lives going forward. That's why there's a clear level of escalation in bad fandoms. People who are more and more online are making up the majority of these fandoms, and lacking any other traditional support network worthy to identify as, become these toxic fans. So the question becomes, how to fix it? Well, like any widespread sociological problem, there isn't an easy answer. Lord knows I'm not smart enough to figure one out. But most of these people are children. Adults reading this do have some degree of responsibility to try and guide them into more responsible and healthy behavior, and criticize them when they fall into toxicity. Will all of them listen? Of course not. God knows I never listened to adults when I was a teenager. But some of them will, and if the toxic cesspool that is modern fandom can be even slightly purified, it's worth it to try. So a game journalist was bad at games, and once again the question of do game journalists have to be good at games? Has popped up. Which honestly I think is a little disingenuous at this point, because it wasn't so much bad play as doesn't know what a video game is before this exact moment playing, but getting into the general dishonesty and lameness of games media whenever they circle the wagons and start to complain isn't really what I'm interested in writing about. Nor is any sort of discussion about gaming culture, which is something that doesn't really. I like being a fan of films and television shows. I like getting obsessive with my favorite characters and watching and rewatching stuff to gather the Easter eggs. I even like debating what things I like more than others with friends. But at what point does fandom cross the line? Good fandom is healthy and appreciative of the content. It can be critical or find critique, but when it turns that vitriol onto creators, or that passion turns into purity tests, it can be toxic. Toxic fans attack creators online, or in real life, and instead of celebrating work, spend efforts tearing it down. Warner Media Studios CEO Ed Sarnoff said in a recent interview with Variety, "I'm very disappointed in the fans that have chosen to go to that negative place with regard to DC, with regard to some of our executives. Right now, toxic fandom wields a lot of power. We've seen everything from the #Restore the Snyderverse crowd to the Last Jedi controversy, which bullied stars off social media and resulted in death threats for filmmakers and executives. But this toxicity has been around for a long time. Now, with more access to creators, executives, writers, directors, and actors, things are getting a little scarier. Fans can call for people's jobs, they can boycott major releases, and they can also harass people so badly that they cause mental distress or worse. So how are movie studios dealing with fandom now? The online nature of fans means you can virally trend for lots of good reasons, and lots of bad ones too. You can spread your show with word of mouth, or you can lose the future of a franchise because people rally against it. While the answer might be just make good things, it's way more complicated than that. First, all art is subjective. Second, we've seen fandoms attack without actually hating the art, just making demands. In a recent Hollywood Reporter article, studios spoke out about dealing with this modern hurdle. You can't really ignore the situation, because you don't want people to think you endorse what's happening. But you also have to make sure if you speak out against said fandom, that you have the support of everyone at the company. So what's left to do? Many studios are treating this on a case-by-case basis. They know internally, their work is to grow more diverse and lift new voices. But when dealing with external forces, they have to find a way to balance vitriol. Look at what happened with the blowback on the female-led Ghostbusters. Fans got upset, execs were bullying, and the movie bombed. At least when all was said and done, The Last Jedi did well at the box office. Much of the toxicity comes from racism, so it's important for studios to let BIPOC know they stand with them and will have their backs when it comes to fandoms, even if it means providing some safety or cushion for them. Again, toxic fandom is not a new thing, just a more prevalent thing we see today. A lot of times, it's rooted in the dangerous idea that only some kinds of fans are valid, and should be serviced above all else. Many times, this is a small but vocal portion of all fans. John Rogers, the screenwriter behind Halle Berry's Catwoman, has a blog post he penned in 2004, which he noted still applied today. In it, he describes a new term called fundamentalists, which means fans who violently believe the only valid interpretation of any entertainment source is a dogmatic adherence to their favorite version of that source. Any change to the smallest detail is inherently unacceptable. See also heresy, and met with frantic scorn. See also Hal Jordan and Klingon's, Bumpy vs. Smooth. A lot of the responsibility falls back on people online as well. Bullying on Twitter or trying to intimidate people online is never a good reason to get your way. But studios also need to do a lot better when their products come out. They need to not bow down to the worst impulses of the loudest fans. It's not only about hiring black people or people of color, it's also about letting people know their employer has their back if something goes down. Kristen Marston, Culture and Entertainment Advocacy Director for Color of Change, told The Hollywood Reporter. They hire people, and then they don't have their back. That can be really detrimental to health and careers. Studios will continue to broaden their horizons and attract new fans to their biggest properties, but their relationship will be strained no matter what. The best strategy seems to be to get as many inclusive voices as possible and create the movie or show that makes you proudest. Tune the fans out, but have your talents backs if they come calling. That is all for right now. If you like this video, or you're new to this channel, then hit that like and subscribe button down below. And one more thing, Jack and Jellify is almost at 1 million subscribers. If you could get them to 1 million by the end of April, I'd be doing a reaction video. Until then, peace out.